Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk on life. Our guest will share his life story. We want you to success in life. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk on life. We're gonna talk on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are gonna witness. Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Business with a servant's heart. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast, or it's Doing Life, or Doing the Military. Yeah, we're going to talk about the military a little bit, how it can really impact your life. And I want to say this. I was not in the military. My dad and my brother were, and thank them for their service. And we're going to thank our guest as well. But we can learn so much from people in the military. So keep your ears open, pencils ready, get your paper set up. Let's take some notes. Let's bring on our guest. Lee, so welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Steve. Honored to be with you today.
I asked this question to a lot of my veteran guests, and I learned so much. What did you learn in the Army? And thank you for your service, by the way, that makes you a better leader, better business person.
I think the number one thing, and I just did a TED Talk on this, 2 weeks ago. That'll be out in the middle of December. But it's this notion of indecision. When I was at Fort Knox, and this is the opening sentence of my book, I recount how the staff sergeant that was sitting on top of our tank, would yell at us, "Lieutenant, what are you going to do now?" And they would count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the whole purpose of that was not to get me to make one perfect move, but it was to get me to make a move. And I think that I used that analogy in my corporate life to be that, indecision is what kills businesses. It can get you overrun in the battlefield and in a training exercise, but it can kill your business. And so I think fighting the status quo, fighting bureaucracy is what I've tried to take from my military experience into my corporate life.
Man, I missed the boat in the military. I asked veterans like you, I get a different answer, but they're all fantastic, tied to business. Like, I believe sports and business have a bridge, but so is the military. And I say this all the time, and Lee, you're going to love this. And honest, if I had a company with a team, probably half of them would be veterans, and we won't get into those reasons, but that's what I love. And I'm glad you mentioned indecision, because I mentor entrepreneurs, and that's their biggest flaw. Oh, do I do this? Do I do that? Do I launch a podcast or not? Take the decision.
Yes.
Make the decision to do it. Well, let's dive into decision and purpose. How do you tie your purpose into your decision for your business?
Well, I think that, one of the things that happens with indecision, like if you're not decisive, that moment of indecision is eroding trust. And so a lot of times we think, oh, we'll put that decision off. But when you do that, you're eroding trust. And when you're working, a lot of my experience has been in private equity. You do not want to erode trust with your private equity sponsors. You don't want to erode trust with your board, with your C-suite. And so that is one of the big things that I've always, it's not just a delay in time, but it's that erosion of trust, which is so critical when you're developing these relationships. And from the military standpoint, the relationships you have with your commander, with your platoon, with your soldiers is so critical into keeping you healthy and alive, in a war situation. And I take that to the same in the corporate world. Like, the people that are your partners in the corporate world, they're cheering for you. They want you to win. So you cannot lose that trust.
I love you, what you're saying. I love you. I'm going to say that because all those wonderful words are president, director, manager, janitor, admin. They're just different labels for the same thing, right?
Right. And you mentioned, Steve, early on, I was fortunate. My first job out of college was working for Ross Perot. And Ross Perot, Navy veteran, and a lot of the folks that had started EDS with him, and then I was at Perot Systems after his presidential campaigns. I was around a lot of military, and so it was really fortunate that I was able to kind of join in a group that appreciated, and we were leaders. That's why we were hired. He has a famous saying, eagles don't flock, you find them one at a time. And that was a lot of the genesis of the company. And so I've tried to take that same mentality to other companies that didn't have a lot of veterans. I might be the only one in some of the companies I've worked at. And that was why I wrote this book, because there's a lot of really important lessons you learn, and I wanted to translate them into mental models that anybody could understand and put to use in their business world.
Eagles don't flock. You say that again one more time.
Eagles don't flock, you find them one at a time.
I know it's powerful. We're going to jump in the book in a second. I got it. This is a personal. I made the audience with this. How was it working with Ross Perot? I've always wondered that.
Well, it was an amazing time for me. I had enlisted in the Army when I was 19, and I had taken a year off of college, came back, was in college, and had gone through. As I got close to graduating, they let you get commissioned. So I'd gone to officer candidate school and then got commissioned. And after I left Fort Knox, this is in 1992, that summer, my wife and I, we went to go visit my dad, who was active duty. And at that time, he was stationed at Camp Robinson in Little Rock, Arkansas. My dad said, I want you to come hear this guy, Ross Perot. He's speaking, down at the convention center in downtown Little Rock. So we went. I was so impressed. I went back home to Knoxville, and we started a Knoxville, Students for Perot movement. We did a lot of really, interesting things. And back then, everything was decentralized. So we had our own shirts, our own buttons, our own bumper stickers, raised our own money. And word kind of got back to Dallas, and they sent some people to Knoxville to meet with us. And I ended up getting hired, and I ended up being Ross's youngest campaign staffer. And so it was just a very fortunate opportunity for me. But it was something that him and his staff were always looking for people that were not going to, they were going to go out and do things. And so we were always fighting the bureaucracy. We would make things happen. That's what he wanted. And so I was always fortunate to work in a very innovative culture. And I think I was just fortunate. The timing was great.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. I'm glad to hear that, because he's an interesting man to me. And is he still alive? No, I don't.
No, yeah, he passed away a few years ago. He lived, I think he died at 88. I got to see him last. I got to take my sons, who are now in college. We got to go visit with him in 2018. So that was the last time we got to visit with him. And he had just opened up a new office there in Dallas, and he had all the campaign stuff from 92 and 96. And so he took us on a wonderful tour. And what I remember was he spent like 2 hours with us. And normally you don't get that kind of time. Like, it's very quick. He's got a few minutes, he's moving. And when we got to spend 2 hours, I told my wife, I said, I don't think I've ever spent that much time with Mr. Perot. And I said, if only I had kids sooner, because it was the kids. He wanted to talk to my sons, Miles and Cy. That's why he spent so much time. He didn't care about talking to Lee Pepper. He wanted to talk to Miles and Cy.
Well, that's a great story for your sons to live on, give their kids, their grandkids. Oh, I love that. That's wonderful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm falling in love with Ross Perot again. This is great.
Yeah. So all your listeners that don't know who he is, they can go look at his old on YouTube.
I forget we're on the other side of the mountain, and we forget. Yeah. We got the gray hair. Well, let's jump in the book, because you take your experience in the military and are helping people with business with your book. Talk about the mission, what you are accomplishing.
Well, I wanted to pass on some of these ideas, so one of the first military strategy that I employed, because, coming out of college and the military, that's all the experience I had. And so I had to use what I had been trained for. So one of the first strategies was this idea of force multiplication. It was a strategy that I had learned in armor school, reading the writings of Karl von Clausewitz, who was a Prussian general, a contemporary of Napoleon. And basically, it's combining arms in the military. And in the idea of marketing, it was combining all these platforms. So you might write one blog post, and what I did was say, okay, well, that blog post now becomes the basis for a podcast episode. And then while we're doing the podcast episode, let's do video. And then while we're doing the video, let's shoot still photography. And then let's chop that up on all the different platforms. And then that one blog post has now been force multiplied onto multiple platforms. And the finance team loved it, because most companies pay for all that separately. And so it gets very expensive, and they don't, but I was able to explain the strategy and get support. And this was back when digital marketing was pretty new. I was the chief information officer at the time, but digital marketing was treated kind of like servers and printers and network. It was a line item under IT. And so I had control of it. And that's where my career had kind of moved more into web development when I was working for Mr. Pro anyway. And so it was just a natural fit for me. But most companies, they do one and they pay too much for it instead of being able to figure out how to force multiply it.
Yeah. What's one? Oh, I like that. Man, you're way ahead of the game now that I think about it.
Well, and then once you start for young leaders, I was a young leader then, you get overruled a lot. You've got the CEO, the president of the board. I mean, these are older people generally. And, for my company, my first start as CIO, our number one marketing spend, Steve, was the yellow pages. This is in 2008.
Okay.
It's not that long ago. And so,
No.
I come in, we're going to shake things up. Guess what? No, 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 hold on. We don't want to move. So I had to kind of prove the case. And part of proving the case was doing it budget friendly. And, within a few months, we had jettisoned completely our yellow page spend and moved it all into digital marketing. But I had to give it voice and language. And instead of just being a trend, which a lot of marketers get stuck doing, when I'm backing up and I'm quoting Carl von Clausewitz, our CEO used to he would put his hands up and go, "Oh God, Pepper's he's quoting von Clausewitz and Patton, I give up." It gave it some
That's beautiful.
gravitas, that this is not a trend. No, this is serious strategy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Audience, Yellow Pages actually was yellow. It's a book with everybody's phone number in it, and you had to look up their phone number. It's not the whole world, but your city, and you can look up local stores and restaurants and
Yep.
get their phone number. Very cool. You had I believe you had a $350 million exit, right?
Yes.
For a company.
Yes, and we returned 60 times to our investors, and so that was at the time it was the largest deal in behavioral health. So we got a lot of kudos, a lot of publicity, and so I was just very fortunate to kind of be on the ground floor because I was hired when the company was switching from a nonprofit to a for-profit, and we had our first equity investment from a company in Chicago, Sterling Partners. So I was very lucky to be on the ground floor and got to participate in that, and so yeah, it was. It was life changing, and we went from having 2 facilities to having, I think when we exited we had almost 20. So we also did a lot of good in the sense that we brought our brand of dual diagnosis treatment to many parts of the country that it wasn't available in.
Social impact and making money. That's the
Mhm.
best equation in the world. Because of course we
Absolutely.
got to make that money. So I'm assuming you took strategies from the book to have a $350 million exit, right?
Well, yeah, and that's what a lot of the stories in the book. What I try to do is it's not just theory. So I will lay out the military strategy. I will then show how I personally used it in one of my business ventures, and then I also will add in commentary from other companies that either used it as a strategy or they didn't know they were using it as a strategy. And one of the big ones that I write about is working with allies. And I use GoPro and Red Bull as a great example because a lot of times it's in marketing and companies, like we don't work with other companies unless we have some kind of cross promotional agreement or we've got to have some paper. But like Red Bull and GoPro, they really approach it as allies. They have very similar customers, and they love each other's brands, and they just do things because they support each other. And that's where in behavioral health we did the same thing. We're not really competing against other treatment centers. We're friendly competitors because we know that not everybody in America is going to be able to come to our facility. In fact, the vast majority of people that are struggling with substance use don't get help. So we just want you to get help somewhere. And as long as we approached it that way, we were always open to refer people in and out. And that created a really nice ecosystem of like-minded centers that you might not be a good fit geographically, or maybe you don't have the right insurance or the insurance that we take. So we're just going to refer you to this company that we know does. And so it really helped that patient seeking help. And we didn't have anything in writing. We didn't say, well, I'll send you one if you give me one. It was, no, we love the work you're doing and we're going to support you when we can.
You just spoke the Sir and Hart playbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what businesses should do, and it's amazing. Competition shouldn't scare you. You should embrace it. I love that what you did. I got another personal question because it's
Sure.
my podcast and I can ask this.
Please.
So because I've talked to other founders that are in that, mode of selling 100, 200, $500 million companies. How do you handle the mindset? Because one, it's a lot of money. Two, a lot, like you said, paperwork, lawyer, all that
Yeah.
noise. How do you handle that?
Well, we had good advisors. So we had
Nice.
many lawyers and investors and advisors that were involved. But I think one of the things, Steve, and maybe that'll be a second book I write. I think to some people that were involved, that were owners, like I was a part owner. I think for some people it didn't turn out well, and then for others it did. And so I think it just kind of depends on the more advice you can get. And I was very fortunate to have some really solid guidance from people that I had been involved with for many years to make sure that we didn't do anything kind of stupid. But it does create a different way you approach things. And so I just tried to make sure that when our exit was done, that I didn't really change who I was. So I think for most of us, we weren't going out and buying flashy cars and
Yeah. Yeah.
new
Yeah.
homes and stuff
As a
like
lot
that.
of people do. I've seen
Yeah.
those, and
And,
it's
and we have to
crazy.
be careful because not everybody in the company got to participate at that level. They weren't necessarily owners. And so we have to honor that the business, and also the business was still going on. We had sold, and many of us, like myself, we had agreements to stay on. And so you couldn't just, hang it up or coast anymore. We had to keep, pushing so that the company that acquired us was going to see the benefit.
So you're 2 for 2 in baseball vernacular. You're hitting 1,000 because you're writing the servant heart playbook, because mentors are so important
Mhm.
to be a servant heart.
Yes.
I'm learning from you. I'm 64 and you're probably 50. I get to learn from a younger man. Half kidding, but this is so powerful because you probably couldn't have got that exit done without those mentors, advisors, whatever words you want to use.
Absolutely. No, it was really key. And one of my key advisors was a gentleman named Randy Campbell, who I had been with him since I was in college, Steve.
Mm.
So he was about 10 years older. And as soon as I got my first job, we were already setting up an IRA, through his company at the time. And I'd been with him all these years. And so he was the first person that I called as soon as we had confirmation that we had a deal that was under a letter of intent. And he really helped guide Jennifer and I all along the way in how we set things up and structure it.
It's powerful because those mentors that you could trust, this is a big thing. This you can't go. You're talking about, somebody and go, hey, I got a $350 million exit. You
The
gotta have
time,
trust there.
yeah, the time is to start finding those people now, because once something's announced, you get a lot of people who may not have your best interest at heart. And so you want to have people that have been with you before anything potentially happens. They've been with you through the lean time, so that when something happens, like having a nice exit, that you've got really solid people, and not just somebody who's just showed up because they read an article in the paper. Because those people certainly, you get lots of emails and phone calls all of a sudden as soon as something's in the paper.
You get best friends everywhere in the world. Hey,
Yes.
remember me way back
Yeah.
20 years? I saw you at the Costco. What?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
And audience, listen to what Lee's saying. This is so wonderful because this is great lessons. Have a mentor. He just said that. Start finding them now. And it could be a video mentor. I have a guy that I listen to every day. I don't know him personally, Darren Hardy. I'll shout out to him. I listen to him I learn from him every day. He's
Yeah.
mentoring me virtually.
Well, and Steve, I think I don't know if people still go to coffee shops anymore, but I do. And I just met a person that was referred to me through a podcast interview I did, and he just happened to be in Nashville, and we went and had coffee in Thompson Station nearby. And I still love just having. I'm not asking for anything. He wasn't asking for anything. We're just connecting, and we shared a lot of. And I feel like you've got to make time in your life to do that. And so, when I always had in our budget, as an example, in our budget, we always had 5% of our marketing budget went to training, to make sure that I was sending my team to training and keeping them up to speed on all their certifications. And I do the same thing with my time. I make sure that I have time every month set aside for going and having coffee or lunch with people, hopefully some new people, in addition to staying in touch with people that have been close with throughout my life. And even when I'm in the car, Steve, I mean, my wife always laughs that she'll hop in the car and I'll be on the phone with somebody, because even if it's just like 2 or 3 minutes just checking in. And I feel like I feel like sometimes that's lost,
Yeah.
and I think it's so helpful because when the need comes, then I've got a whole bunch of people that I've stayed in touch with over the years.
And I love you put in your line item your budget. That's a lesson for you out there, founders.
Hmm.
It's there. It's not like, oh, we'll think about it in
Yes.
December.
Yeah.
It's there. We're going to take 20,000. I'm making up a number. That's
Yep.
going to training for you guys. We're going to bring somebody in or whatever to educate and uplift you. I love it, man.
Because
I want to work.
if you're not careful, Steve, there's going to be lean times in your
Yeah.
business, and the lean times you don't want to all of a sudden have people say, "Well, I need to go cut the training," because that's one of the key things that I think we sometimes forget. Like we hire somebody, and at that moment they're perfect, but listen, months and years go by. What are we doing to make sure they're still staying sharp? And I always, whenever somebody would come and say, "Well, I think we need to cut this or cut that," I'm like, do you see your favorite pro football team? Do you see them like cutting their coaching staff? No. And so we have to maintain that mentality. Now, it doesn't mean you still want to hold people accountable, but you've got to keep investing, especially now with all the technology is changing at such a rapid pace.
Yeah. If people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, they need to be let go. That's how
Yeah.
you serve people. You
Hmm.
got to say no as a servant leader. Have to. Not saying all the time. Go ahead.
Well, that gets back to the decision making. I
Yeah.
mean, that's I think one bit. A lot of times in my personal experience in companies, the indecision around doing a performance improvement plan or letting somebody go is painful. And you have to have your partners in HR to make sure that you're compliant and that you're doing everything above board and to your state's regulations. But wow, you can't just let things,
Yeah.
you can't let bad behavior or poor performance go on and on and on, because it not only it erodes trust. And so all of a sudden your top performers start seeing that, and now they start questioning, like, why am I busting my butt here when so and so is just getting away with it? So
Yeah. And I'm thinking about the military. If you have the bad apple in the military, people could die.
yes,
You
absolutely.
won't die in a business, but your business will die. And
Yep.
nobody wants that.
Yep.
It's so cool. Well, we're coming to the end here. I've got a question. You've really inspired me about military and service. And you young people out there, I know it's war and all that. It's much more than that. So if
Yeah.
it's something you're thinking about, take a look at it. But what was your favorite part of the military?
I think the relationships, to be honest with you, Steve, I still am in touch with people that I went to basic training with. This is going back, 40 years ago. And it's amazing to stay in touch. And they'll use this term brotherhood, but it really is. And these are people that I don't get anything from them. I'm not asking, but we're always in communication, phone calls and LinkedIn messages and Christmas cards. And it's been really great with my book coming out because I've had so many supportive messages, people coming back that I hadn't that I had maybe lost a little bit of contact with. And that's one of the things. My youngest son is in the Army. He just enlisted over the summer, and he's now out at Fort Huachuca. I can already see this process starting with him because I'm starting to pick up names of people that he's in training with right now. And I know these are going to be lifelong connections for him, which is going to be really meaningful.
You're probably a happy father right now.
Oh yeah, yes,
I
we're going
mean,
out to see him. Going out to see him on Thanksgiving. But yeah, really proud because he just graduated high school and he decided to put off college to go and serve. And I think that makes sense because especially for young men, there's a lot of pressure just to leave high school and go straight to college. And listen, our prefrontal cortexes aren't completely done until 25. So I was really happy for him. It made a lot of sense, and he's thriving so far. And my wife, who was probably the most nervous. Now, luckily, we were together when I was in, so she wasn't completely foreign to it. But she's been really relieved to see how happy, he is. So,
I love how you said that. You didn't force him into it. You gave him the choice. He made the decision. You supported him. If he would
yeah,
have gone into trade school, you'd been supporting him there.
absolutely.
Love that.
He came to us with it. I mean, it was something that had been talked about, but he brought it up to us, I guess, in maybe it was last December because he was a high school football player. And so I thought he was going to go play, football, and go to college, but he decided that he wanted to do this route. Now we're really supportive and excited. And my older son, he went straight into college and he's been thriving and studying finance and econ. So every path is a little different for everybody. It's the same way with my family. My middle brother served, my younger brother didn't, and it's fine. Everybody's got a little bit different path.
To each his own. It's that phrase will live for another 100 years. Let's end with an improv. You've been a wonderful guest. So I'm going to reserve a table in a restaurant for us. Me and you're going to sit there. Who are you going to invite that's influenced your life over all these years, whether dead or alive? Let's bring those three to the table we could talk to. And more importantly, what's the food you're ordering for the table?
So you're saying you want 3 names?
Bring me 3 names.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna throw out the very first one is Winston Churchill, because my father, was 26 years career military, and he had me reading Churchill's books when I was little. So I would definitely have Winston Churchill. I would definitely bring back Ross Perot, and then I would have my father, because he was very influential, in my life and in my service. So those are the 3. Now, food. That's going to be a little difficult because I love to eat spicy. I love to eat, Indian food, Thai food, and I'm pretty sure my dad would never eat that. So I'd have to go somewhere that had a lot of different food. We have to go to a food hall, Steve.
There you go. Food market, we're doing. They can wherever they want, sit at the table with us. I love it.
Exactly.
Oh, what a blessed table. I'm just thinking about those 3 people and have you, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thanks again. God bless you. I really love what you're doing. I love the book. I know audience wants to reach out to you, connect with you, get the book. How can they do all that?
Yeah, they can go to neveroutmatched.com. They can also please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm out doing a lot of book promo now, and I've got a number of speaking engagements. I just did my first TED Talk. I'll be at a Veterans Ready Summit in December in Washington, D.C. I'll be at a behavioral health conference, TCV, in Scottsdale in December. So, I'm always available to speak. I speak at bigger events. I also speak at smaller events. So I'm just happy to share. And I love, connecting. And if people come to Nashville, connect with me and we'll go grab coffee.
There you go. He's already done it once. He's going to do it again. And he likes pepper on his food, by the way.
Yes, exactly. And I'm so honored that, I'm just impressed, Steve, that with 850 episodes. Kudos to you. You're a pioneer. And so congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. And you're a perfect guest why I love doing these, because my notepad's full, but I learned so much. And talk about another way of building relationships and get to know people and staying connected. We will stay connected.
Yes.
Thanks again, Lee. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Here's why. This impacted me. If it impacted you, share this podcast with somebody going, hey, this guy's got a great book. And they can actually see Lee, listen to Lee, and listen to what he's all about. It's wonderful. And don't you want to give gifts? I know this is November 21st, near Thanksgiving. We want to give gifts. But I think podcast links are gifts. These shows are gifts where we can impact others. So let's keep continuing doing that. And with that being said, me and Lee want to thank everybody for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.